Good morning, everybody. Sorry about that. Anne and I have already been on for an hour this morning and everything was fine. So it's just one of those things. I know you are all muted, but there will be points where Anne or I might ask a question. And if you want to chip in with the answer, if you just temporarily unmute yourself by pressing the space bar, holding it down while you talk, we're happy for you to respond in that way. So why are we here? Well, Anne and I have been together, working together as colleagues with primary maths for years and years and years and years. And our passion is that all children get the chance to love maths because we absolutely love it. And it absolutely breaks our hearts when we hear of children who don't like it for whatever reason. And there is no reason. Our mantra is the only reason somebody can't do maths is because they've been asked to do it in a way that's not good for them to learn at a time when they're not ready to learn it. And that's the top and bottom of it. And later on, we'll prove that fact to you by showing you a child who is 14 years old doing work that we would normally expect a 5-year-old to do. But she's learning. We are very experienced and we've got all this knowledge that now, when we're both retired, we're actually just keeping it to ourselves. So we decided that we would find a way to share it with other people. We made ourselves a website to support parents of children who were in school because we realized there was that lots of parents didn't understand what was going on in the classroom. Then Helen, who's also on here, said to us one day, you know what? I think home educators would really find that useful. So under the guidance of Helen, we've learned a lot about home education and have ended up making our own maths program. But more about that later. What is hard for us as adults is to remember what it was like to learn something. Think about learning to ride a bike. Once you've learned to ride a bike, you can no longer explain to someone how to learn to ride a bike because you know how to do it. And our brain then cuts that bit off. So when you're with your child and they're saying, but what do I do? You're like, well, just push down with your legs. And because the actual process of learning how to ride the bike has gone because we know how to do it. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Anne because she's going to talk about a time when she was in a really tricky situation as an adult learning maths.
Okay. Yeah, I was on a course and it involved 6 hours of an unseen language and it was total immersion. And this particular lesson, the tutor decided that we were going to practice counting. Now, I wasn't too bad at counting, except I could never remember the number 4. So she came around and gave us all some sweets, Skittles actually. And when I looked down, lo and behold, number 4. And I thought, I can't do this. I couldn't get back to my book to see what it was. I could feel the tension rising. I tried to swap with the guy next to me and he just laughed. And I could really feel, I was very nervous, anxious. I could feel my palms sweating. And I looked at it and I thought, I can't do this. I've got no strategy to help me. The numbers were on the board, but of course we go from left to right and they go from right to left. But there was no clue as to what the number word was. So I looked at this, looked at everybody else and quickly ate one because I knew the word for number 3. But that really brought it home to me how a child must actually feel when you ask it to do something that they haven't got a clue about and no strategies to help them. So I really want wanted in this program and the way we introduce the maths to make it so that child never feels that way. So never mind. So to that end, I thought we might do a little exercise. So Pam, if we could have that slide, please.
I think I might have to take over here because I think I can only share a slide.
Okay.
When I'm in charge.
Okay, you do it.
You know what I mean? I can't share a slide and while you're talking, because I just tried to do that and it didn't seem to work.
Okay, that's fine. You carry on.
Well, you can talk.
I can talk. Okay, right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a calculation. Okay. No, Pam, that's the one. Okay, so could you just have a look at it and think about how you would work it out and come up with some sort of solution? Maybe one or two people are a bit confused. Would it help if I said that A equals 1 and Z equals 26?
Has anybody got an answer?
Yeah, any thoughts?
It wouldn't help and I have no clue.
Well, I've got to be honest. I can kind of do this, but Pam always has to do it on her fingers.
Okay.
So,
right, I'm a bit lost. Hang on.
so
Right.
T divided by E. So that's 20 divided by 5.
12.
Sorry?
12.
No, that's wrong.
Oh.
9.
Wrong.
Is it 9?
No, it's wrong.
Okay, sorry.
Oh,
I'll
stop
unmute.
being mean, Anne. Tell them
Okay,
that.
okay, right. Look at that calculation. Are there any digits in it at all?
No,
So would it be a digit answer?
no.
So what would the answer be?
It will just be what it is because there's no value to it.
Ah, but there is. I've shared that A equals 1 and Z equals 26.
L.
Why see?
Is it L?
No, but close.
Come on, Anne, just give us the answer.
It's K. It's 11.
It's the 11th letter of the alphabet.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's it. Now, did you see how hard that was when you have no frame of reference? And that's what we sometimes ask children to do all the time. And that's not right. We need to build up to that gradually.
Right. So, how much can we challenge children? That's a question lots of you asked in response to our greeting that we sent when we knew you were being an attendee today.
Yes.
Lots of people wrote back to us and said this was an area where they tended to struggle a little bit. So there are two things that really underpin everything Anne and I do in maths, and it's quite
It's easy when you know how.
not science, as they say. So that's what we're here to do today. We're here to share everything basically that we know, except I can't find it now, sorry. No, I know where it is, it's somewhere else. It's here.
This is all new to us.
No, it's not there either. Anyway, how do we know how to challenge? What we use is something called the zone of
Proximal development.
proximal development.
Yeah.
And it was all here this morning and now it's all disappeared. Right. And can you talk about that while I find it?
Yeah, the zone of proximal development. It's like 3 oval shapes, but it's a big one, a smaller one, and a very small one. And the very small one is what the children actually know. So they're confident, they can do that, that's fine. And then the second shape is a bit bigger. And this is what we want to share with them, to teach them, for them to learn. The final shape is too far. If we jump from the first shape to the third shape, they will have no chance, because they need strategies, learning, understanding. So that's where we aim our teaching and their learning, in that second shape. That, of course, will get bigger. Those shapes will get bigger as they learn more and more maths. But if you always jump too far ahead, you set them up
I'm nearly there.
for
Anne.
losing their confidence. And confidence is massive in maths. If you feel you can do it, or at least have a try at it, it takes you a long way. So it's called the zone of proximal development. There's something on the website about it if you wanted to look at it.
I've got it. I found it.
Yay! There it is. So the current understanding is the smallest. The second oval, that's the zone of proximal development. That's what you're aiming for. Eventually, you will move this first, the understanding, into there, because they'll know all that. And then you'll move that zone a bit further away. It's a progression.
So basically, if you challenge your child too much, that is beyond, it doesn't matter how long you take showing them how to do it, explaining this, explaining that, it's beyond their capabilities at that time. So the current understanding is what they can work on independently. The zone of proximal development is what they can work on with your support. Now, in our system of working, our support is always a person sitting beside a child.
Yes.
Some programs, maths programs, use a computer or use a book. We chose not to do that because we believe the person who knows your child best and is able to make decisions about their learning is you. And we find when we're sitting beside a child asking questions that actually we know if they've got it, because literally you can see the light bulb go on. And soon children start to recognize that light bulb moment themselves.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that underpins everything we do. We never push a child, challenge a child too much. It's a difficult thing to, it's quite a difficult thing to know how far is too far. But when it's your child and you're only dealing with your child, you get to know those things.
Yes.
The other thing that we pin all our work on is, here she says again, work by a man called
Bruner.
go on, Anne.
Jerome Seymour Bruner. He was a psychologist born in 1915. He added an awful lot to educational psychology. And his system was that there are 3 stages to learning maths. The first stage is enactive. And whenever you are introducing any concept to any child at any age, you always use manipulatives, always. Doesn't matter what they are. They can be straws, they can be apples, they can be toys, sweets, anything. You always have to introduce it with manipulatives. The children actually have to be able to pick them up, move them around, and work on the concept. And only when they are absolutely solid with using the manipulative, excuse me, got dog's teeth in, you then move on to iconic. Iconic is actually the manipulatives in picture form. They can't actually move them anymore. But they have to find a different way. You got it?
Hooray! There we are.
Yay. So this is the iconic phase. So yes, you can see they might draw, they might use dots.
Oh.
I've seen children use little hearts, all sorts of things. And then we move on. Fractions. There, it's divided up, a bar's divided up into 3 for thirds and into 4 for fourths. Now, somebody did ask about Singapore maths, or it's been called Singapore maths, it's been called lots of different things. Actually, this is where this fits in, except instead of using pictures, you're using bars. That's all it is. It's all part of the same system. And when your child is absolutely secure in an understanding of this, only then do you move on to the symbolic phase, which introduces the digits. Because if you said 5 plus 2 equals 7, what does that mean to a child? Unless they have the understanding of what 5 is, what the symbols mean. And the only way to do that is to start at the beginning, at any age that there's a new concept, with manipulatives. And your child can choose what it is. Whatever their interest is, use that. Collect something. Go to the seaside, collect shells, whatever. It doesn't matter. The fact is they've got to be able to move them. Now, just as a small interjection, this is one of the things we did. And I hope you like it.
This activity works best if you weave it into a story. Perhaps you could use your child's favourite story. Be imaginative. You know it's maths, but your child thinks it's a game. This is the bus in Safariland. Make sure your child knows that the bus is empty before you start. There are 0 riders on the bus. Amelia is the driver today. It's her job to pick up the animals and take them into town. The first stop she has to make is at Jonah's house. Jonah gets in beside Amelia and off they go. How many riders are on the bus now? We had 1, now we have 1 more. 1 and 1 gives us 2. 1 add another 1 makes 2. We avoid using the word equals at this point, as it is a difficult concept to begin with for your child. Using gives and makes helps them on their journey towards understanding equals. On the way to town, Amelia stops and picks up Mrs. Elephant. She needs to buy a cake for her daughter's birthday. How many riders are on the bus now? We had 2 already on the bus, and we picked up 1 more. So 2 and 1 more makes 3, or 2 add 1 gives 3. Let's check. 1, 2, 3. If at any time your child is unsure of the number, just recount. Off the bus goes to pick up George Giraffe and Zoe Zebra. They're excited because they're going swimming at the outdoor pool. And so it goes on. You can pick up as many people, animals or objects as you wish. As your child becomes more confident, you could increase the number of riders and the number waiting to get on each time. Because it's important to give your child practice in counting back or subtraction, you can reverse the process when the bus brings the riders home. This also shows that addition is the opposite of subtraction, or in mathematical terms, they are the inverse of each other.
So there, in that little video, I know perhaps we're teaching you things that you already know, that you already do and you already know, but it just shows you how much maths can be done just in a little activity like that. And that's part of the skill that you are all developing as home educators. Maths doesn't have to be from a book, from a screen. It can be from play, and that's the best kind of maths. It's more difficult perhaps to work out where you can use those kind of objects when your children's a little bit older. Here we've just got the beginnings of fractions of a number. a difficult concept, but again, using objects, it's made much simpler.
If your child is unsure of how to find fractions of number,
Can't see it.
activity you can do at home to support the maths lessons at school.
Pam, I can't see it.
All right, sorry. Thank you. Apologies. It's a good job you were there, Anne.
Fractions of a number. If your child is unsure of how to find fractions of number, here is a fun activity you can do at home to support the maths lessons at school. Remember, in a fraction, the bottom digit, or denominator, tells us how many groups to share the amount into. To find a quarter of 12, ask your child to get 12 objects. These can be anything as long as they can be moved. Use post-its to show the number of groups you need to share the objects into. So for a quarter, we would need 4 post-its. Share the objects equally between the post-its. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, for a quarter of 12, each group contains 3 objects. This is a difficult concept and your child will need lots and lots of practice.
But we don't need lots of practice. That's just the way we use that. We actually use that a lot, and children really, really, really get, it doesn't look very interesting to us, but to them it is, because all of a sudden it's helping them to work out something that looks really complicated. Now, I've just put up on the screen a simple calculation. We'd like you just to have a think at what does a child need to know before they can do that calculation. That looks like something you would give a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, but what do they actually need to know before they get to that? If you've got any ideas, just press in with your, temporary. Helen Wong, I know you've got something to say about that.
Well, yeah, I might. Shall I? Shall I say?
Well, go on then.
So they would need to know what it means to have 5 things. What's the 5-ness of 5? What does they would need to be able to see in their head, I believe, what 5 things look like, what 2 things look like, what they would look like if they were together.
Yeah. And the one thing that adults find really easy, because again, it's like the bicycle, we've learnt it, so we know it, is the symbols. Mathematicians make life really difficult for children, because to us, when we look at that, we know that means add. We know. But children don't. They've no idea that that's the shorthand for add. Now, if we were doing this with children,
Give up.
if we were doing this with children, we would do all of these things, which were there but have now disappeared, and we'd link it back to Bruna. So
Yes.
I'll just go and try and find that somewhere else.
Okay. I saw some people putting in what they thought, and it was completely valid. Yes, they do not need to be able to count. They do need to know what 5 means, what 2 means. The symbols are really important. Yes, of course. But how do you teach that?
There we go.
Sometimes we assume too much for children. So this is what we would have actually done before we'd introduce that. harking back to Bruno, we would teach them the value of a number.
That's the fiveness of five.
The fiveness of five, the two-ness of two. We would have taught them how to, showed them what conserving numbers are. It doesn't matter where, like 6 coins, it doesn't matter where they are. Are they in a pile? Are they in a circle? Are they in a tower? There's always 6 there. It doesn't matter how it's sorted out. We've also done some adding, because there's 2 ways of adding. There's augmentation and the other one. Sorry about that. Aggregation. Oh, do you know, I always forget that. I mean, basically, augmentation is where there's 2 groups and you just push them together and you count to see how many's there. Aggregation is where you start with one group and you add to it.
No, Anne, you've got that.
I was getting the wrong way around. I'm rubbish at that. But anyway, one is you push them together and count, and the other is you add to them by counting on.
But there's no point in us going right through that.
I mean, it doesn't matter. And equals, they need to know what equals means. And also they'll have to have practice of recording numerals, not just writing them, but taking a squeezy bottle outside and practicing, you know, with water and all sorts of fun activities that they can get away with. There's lots of things. And then moving on from there, using number tracks, jumping along number tracks, then number lines.
How's a track different to a line, Anne?
Well, a number track is like snakes and ladders, the boxes with numbers in. A number line is just a line with marks with the number on it. You don't really use a number line to jump along. It's more to do with counting. So, can't see that, Pam.
What?
The 2 at the bottom.
Okay.
The yellow one.
Oh, why? Because it's yellow.
Oh yeah, using the photographs of objects. Again, that's the iconic phase. We would use that, and it's only then we would move on to the calculation with the symbols. Now, you may wonder why they're in different colours. It's just the way we set out our rainbow ladder maths. The first level is red, the second level is orange, exactly. And you'll see from that, we don't actually introduce that until the yellow level, the 3rd level, because there's so many things they need practice with and understanding of before we actually get to there. And I've been guilty of this before. I've pushed children much too fast and it's not right. And you know it's not right because they look at you blankly and they wander off because they can't do it, they're not interested. If you pitch it at the right level, at the right time for them, they will enjoy it.
That's where being a home educator is such a joy, because you know your children better than anybody else. And you know when the time's right. And if you sit down to do something and you've got it all ready and you're doing an activity and you just take one look and you see that look, then you have the joy of being able to stop and say, well, you know what, that's not right. It might just be not right for today, but it might be just not right because something else is missing.
Yeah.
So when we put together, we have a program that we've put together.
It doesn't follow a curriculum.
Sorry?
It's what we think.
Yes. There's no this doesn't follow any country's curriculum. This is using our experience and understanding of how children learn maths. This is how we would like to see, how we know children succeed. Now, if they're not succeeding, they're not going to like maths. If they're struggling, or if they're not liking what they're doing, or we're moving them forward too fast, they're not going to like maths. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Now, this might look quite a formal structure. And we know that some of you as home educators don't follow a formal structure. But actually, it can be used however you like. You can start inside these topic areas are activities. So there's 7 counting activities. There's 5 number activities. There's 5 calculating activities, and start to record calculations on our bottom rung.
Yes.
Now, you could follow those all the way up if you're working with an older child who's maybe had a problem with maths, and you can go as quick or as slow as you like.
Oh, as quick or as slow as the child likes.
Yeah. Helen, could you explain how you use our ladder?
Hi everyone, I'm Helen. I am a home educator. My son Caleb is 6, so he would be going into year 2 in September if he was at school. And we use the rainbow ladder. So what I really love about it is that there's never any part of me that's felt like he should be on that colour. He's 6 and he should really be on, you know, we're just moving out of red now, but there's none of me I'm not worried. I'm not thinking it's, you know, it says next to it that should be year finished in reception, because that's not how the ladder's structured. So we really enjoy it. And what I like about it the most is that my son, he's called Caleb. Caleb probably he doesn't know the word maths. We've never done that. We've never, in the same way that he doesn't know the word literacy, you know, when I sit down to read a book with him at bedtime, I don't say to him, and now it's time for literacy, because that would be so weird. And I never wanted to do that with maths. I didn't want him to think of numbers and the joy of numbers as being this set, we do this now and then we fill in this worksheet and then that's it for the day. I wanted it to be just part of our everyday language, everyday activities. So you know, I knew about the Bruno that was shared underpins the rainbow. So an example of what we've done, he loves Lego. Caleb loves Lego. So we've been quite lucky in that we've been able to do a lot of, basically we've done number bonds through Lego, very early number bonds. So 5 pieces of Lego and 5 pieces of Lego and pushing them together. And how many pieces of Lego do we have now? We've done that a lot. Every time we do anything where there's groups, we focus on groups. And this is all from what I've read from looking at the rainbow ladder. The number track we love. We really love that. It's so easy to develop the suggestions of activities into what you would like. So we just did chalk. We just did chalk on our slabs outside, and I was really careful to make sure that there wasn't just, you know, the symbolic stage. I didn't just write a 5. There was 5 dots, so that he could see what physically 5 looks like. And then we roll a dice, and it's just, the dice has rolled 4. So can you jump on 4 or can you jump back 4? So then he's learning, moving on and moving backwards without knowing he's learning maths. So I've focused on number bonds because something happened the other day that absolutely amazed me. It's quite easy when you're an unschooler and nothing's really written down, and you know, if you ask to see Caleb's formal work, I don't really have any. You know, the rainbow ladder is good in terms of you can tick to say your child is competent at that activity. So I've got that, but I haven't got, you know, I haven't got anything written down. You know, I haven't got maths worksheets that I can get out. However, so sometimes as an unschooler, I'm sure other people on this group know, you can start to doubt yourself. However, my mum rings Caleb every day at 5 o'clock to tell him a story. And the last book that she read to him, she said, there's 9 chapters in this book, Caleb. And I was so surprised. Caleb just said, so we could do 3 and 3 and 3, or we could do 4 and 4, and then, but that just leaves 1. And I mean, my mum said to Caleb, turn the phone to mummy, and she said to me, how does he know that? And I said, I'm as surprised as you are, because it clearly works. This system of going through, you know, you use real tangible. We used Lego, and then we moved it on from Lego to, you know, having it a bit more visible in pictures, and then we started to talk about it, and it's clearly worked because I could not believe he was able to do that. So yeah, we really enjoy it, and I hope he can develop a real love of maths, but never know that it's maths. Just think that it's how the world.
I'm not sure when you get to the level where you might be doing a bit of algebra, I'm not really on the right stand up.
Oh, bless. Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
But just before, oh, there you go, Helen. There's a message. That's totally inspiring, Helen. And to be honest, it's Helen that's inspired us to do what we've done.
Yes.
We just were chatting with Helen once about maths, because that's what Anne and I do all the time, talk about maths. And it was Helen that inspired us, because behind that ladder is hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of work from Anne and I. But we did it with a smile on our faces, because we knew it was our chance to spread out to the world what we love about maths. Oh, Benny. He says he wishes he'd been taught maths this way. Yay!
Oh, it's wonderful.
So we're almost at the end now. Now, if anybody wants to know more about specific, we tried not, because actually that's our Rainbow Ladder Maths, and in normal times we do charge for a subscription to be able to access it. Our subscription is, we think, really fair, either £3.49 a month or £29.99 a year for up to 5 children. You can record, you can use it for as many children as you like, but there is that way to, like Helen says, she ticks to record that Caleb's done something. We think it's a fair amount, but at the moment you can get onto it for free. That's been our effort to support people as they're, you know, as everybody's struggling. The only problem with that is if you went and did that and you started to make some of those records, at the end of lockdown, that free will end and any records that you've made will be lost. If anybody was interested, we'll talk about it another time.
Oh, how lovely. Thanks, Christy.
Pamela.
Do you know what? Those are nice comments, because I felt we've got a bit mixed up with the technology and everything else. So I'm glad that you picked. I want to really show you this video. Now, this is the child I talked about right at the beginning, Child M. We had a mum contact us through our website who was absolute. Oh, thank you. There was absolutely. I'm going to start crying in a minute. This woman was absolutely at the end of her tether. She had tried everything she could. She told us later she spent hundreds of pounds on trying to help her daughter with her maths. At the age of 14, Child M could not count to 10 and backwards. Now, there are some complex medical problems, but that's why her mum took her out of school. I know that must be a story. Some people do that. That's their spur to start home educating. Others start right from the beginning. But we could tell by this piece of writing that she put on our contact form on the website, she was absolutely she just didn't know what to do. So we supported the mum and talked to her about it and said to her, we can help, we know it works, but you have to jump on the bus with us and really commit to it, and it will have an effect. Let me just, hopefully after that it won't be anticlimactic and I'll be able to find it. Oh, hang on, I have to share first, screen share. Make sure my little boxes are ticked. It's when we get there, it won't take very long. Here she is. We have permission from her mum to show this. Here we go. It's very quick. Now this is Child M, she's 14.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right. To us, that made all the work we've done on this worth it, because that child, not only can she count to 10, she's doing it with confidence. She doesn't know that she is doing something a 5-year-old does. She knows that that has supported her maths journey. And her mum was ecstatic one day when she went out into the garden. Child M was out there and she had chalked herself a number line on the floor and was jumping along it, counting to 10 and counting back. Completely inspired by herself, or by me and Anne, of course, and mum. And oh, don't start, Ruth, you'll have me going. We have had a muddle, I know, this morning doing this, but you know what? That's where we're coming from. We care, and we want your children to grow up and love maths as much as we do.
Yeah, yes.
And basically, if you want to contact us, we do have a website. The information's all on the app, Juliet's app. We're happy to discuss anything you like with you.
Can I just say, this we totally accept this may not be for everyone, but we've offered ways that could support you in your child's math journey. If you're happy with what you're doing, if you could incorporate some of our ideas, that would be wonderful. Because what we want to do is turn children from a can't do to a can do, and to actually enjoy maths.
Can I interject a little bit there?
Yes, please, Julia.
Okay, so one of the things that comes out of what you're saying, and I did speak to Pamela on the phone about this before, and that is the last thing you want is for maths to be an emotional subject, because the moment emotions get involved, either yours or the child's, you're in dangerous territory and you need to back off.
Absolutely.
Because you will actually lose all the ground that you've gained.
Yes. Yeah. Of course.
I was looking at some of the questions on your Q&A that people have posted. So the one, which I think you've actually already answered, she says, I love maths, and for this reason, it has been one of the hardest subjects to teach. What are your tips for those who have less enthusiastic children?
If you do it our way, they will be enthusiastic.
Yes, well, that's why I say I think you've answered it already. You've given some good tips there. What are your top tips or resources for teaching algebra, please? Now, it sounds to me like you wouldn't call it algebra. You would just, it would be an enjoyment of numbers.
If you, what we do is, we feel that algebra starts right at the bottom, because if you give a question to a child that says 5 add, after you've gone through all the other stages, of course, 5 add empty box equals 8, that is algebra. Because algebra is about finding working out what the missing part of the question is. That is the simplest form of algebra.
Yeah.
If we're talking algebra as in algebraic equations, we often, with older children, maybe 10 or 11, start by doing some little investigations. Now you'll find those, they are actually there up at the top level of the ladder. And actually, again, it's the same thing. The children are just putting blocks around a certain size piece of paper, and they're working out if the sides of the pond got bigger, how many blocks would I need? And eventually you can take them to saying, oh, so if it was, you work it out where if the sides were 8, how many blocks would you use? 10, and it's all there, how to do it. And eventually you get to an algebraic equation. And then when you say to the children, well, there you go, that's algebra, they're like, oh, but I can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, actually you can.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
we did that with 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
And it was just, no, this isn't algebra, I can do it.
Yeah, and it's about the foundations, you know, getting the foundations right. And I'm a big fan of the manipulatives until the child no longer needs them. Just
Exactly.
let them use whatever they need to help them become comfortable with the numbers.
Yes.
So there's another question here, which I'm sure you'll have a good answer for. For those who are scared of not being able to explain answers, I expect they mean the parents, is resorting to online learning the only way? So if the parent doesn't feel able to explain, what options do they have?
Well, our Rainbow Ladder Maths, every activity has hints and tips, and these are for the parents, and they explain what the child is doing,
Might do.
how they can help.
Yeah, what they might
all
say.
there. Mm-hmm.
So you can become, basically what you're doing is becoming Anne and I in a different form.
Yes.
Everything we know about how children might misinterpret or the encouragement they might need or the phrases they might need, they're all there.
Yes.
For you to, I mean, Helen, have you used those? Unmute yourself, Helen. Yeah. Hold it down. Hold it
down.
I think someone else might be on mute. I think Juliet might have been helping me out there. Sorry. Yeah, the hints and tips are brilliant because it teaches you the correct language to use. So before you do an activity, you as the parent or you as the facilitator really understand what the aim is. And it's written in such simple terms. I've never read anything on the hints and tips that I've thought, well, I've got no idea what that means. And I'm not a gifted mathematician. I'm not. It's a subject I find tricky. So the hints and tips definitely, and it just gives you what language to use. It gives you the right things to say. And, now we say oblong and not rectangle because now I know that a rectangle is just a shape with 4 right angles, not so a square is a rectangle. So then so now Caleb says oblong as his natural language. And that was from the hints and tips section. So yeah.
Okay, so
The other
Pamela,
thing,
please sorry, I was just going to say, because we're kind of getting to where people may want to go off and sort out their lunch. Please tell them, so what is the name of your website?
It's i2imaths.co.uk.
And that stands for Inspiring to Inspire, am I right?
Yeah, that's us. Inspiring to Inspire.
And there's not just the Rainbow Maths on there, there's access to the whole website.
Yeah.
So please do go and have a good look.
Those little videos that we showed with the safari truck and the post-its are actually from the side of the website we designed to support parents. So there's loads and loads of things on there. And there's a glossary of any mathematical term that a primary child might need. So if you don't know what it means, you just click on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you go onto the session where it gives Pamela's name and Anne's names, it's got the bio, and on the bio you will find the link or the website link over there. And as they've said, they're more than happy to chat to you. And I think that I just want you to take a moment to go through the chat because you need to see what all the parents are saying there. And just feel encouraged. It's Anya, yes. So Helen has just typed in the name of the website for you in the chat.
Thank you.
i2i Maths.
Okay,
it's
so
i2imaths.co. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm just getting some new ones, even jazzier than these.
Well, you can type it in too, Pamela, if you want to type in that that website address.
I'll put our email address, and then that's the other thing. If you subscribe with us, any questions you have, we will get back to you.
Yes.
And if people use the Q&A that's attached to your talk, they can enter questions there. So if you will check those as well.
Of course.